Okay, good morning. Can everyone hear me? Type in if you can. I just want to make sure that I'm loud enough for you, and then I'll get started. Yay! Okay. Oh, hi, Stephanie. Good morning. Happy Friday. Friday, November 8th. It's been a long week. The time change and the weather, and I hope everybody's staying well. Um, okay, is this good? Let me get even closer. Try to be as loud as I can. Um, anyway, so it's been a really long week, but I'm so glad you guys are here. Um, and I wanted to tell you if you will send me, if you're here this morning with us, if you'll um, type in, because some of you might be watching with your team, but if you'll type in who's here and what school you are from, I don't have it with me, it's in the storage room. I have a book of plays for fifth grade that I'm going to send you guys for joining us this morning. So just a little treat for y'all. Okay. So for our coaching session for November, we're looking at drama and traditional literature, and for the reading unit of study, and biography writing for the writing unit of study. Drama and traditional literature starts on about December 2nd, and biography writing unit of study starts on about December 11th. So I know we're a little bit ahead here, but our whole point of that is just to kind of get you guys thinking and ready for what's coming up. So let's go ahead and get started. Have a few things to talk about for the drama and traditional literature unit of study. These are kind of the top five biggies that I pulled from the unit that I think are the most important for y'all to know as you move into this unit. But probably the first one is you want to use a lot of familiar texts for a lot of the teaching that you're going to do and your mini lessons. Um, maybe so that's something you can think about since it's only beginning of November, is maybe incorporating, in a read aloud every now and then, or maybe even a book you're using with a small group to incorporate some fables and legends and myths and folk tales and things like that, and plays as well, so that you'll have something to use that the kids have already read, so you can just pick those up and without having to read the whole story again, just use part of those um, to teach specific characteristics about drama and traditional literature. So that's just something to think about. Um, there are so many things available out there. Aesop's fables, myths. Your Journeys has some texts that are available. Your literacy library has most likely has a lot of those texts and at different levels. So you could even use those with small groups, or for kids to read during independent reading time. So lots of good literature out there. And of course, your librarian is an excellent resource for you to go um, to pull some of those texts. But it is better if they're familiar. That way, you don't have to spend a lot of time reading the whole story again. You can just go back to certain pieces of it. Also, you're going to hit on the characteristics of traditional literature, just as you've done with every genre so far this year. You're going to start making a list of what kids notice about traditional literature, such as how there are usually good or bad characters, or good and bad characters. There's usually an element of right versus wrong. There's sometimes a lesson. Usually, traditional literature has a happy ending, and there's an easily identified conflict in traditional literature. So those are some characteristics that you'll be looking at. The third piece to really think about, and that a lot of the lessons revolve around, are looking at the story elements of this genre of and this, and I'm mainly talking about traditional literature here. Um, so digging into the setting and not just a time and place, but also thinking about sights, what they see, what they hear, what they feel in that setting, and to teach that, really using a lot of think alouds with your students. And as you work your way through a book and think, ooh, I'm going to stop right here because I can really smell um, the cookies that the character is cooking, and I can hear the noise in the background, and I can really feel what's going on in this scene, so that you're getting across to them that the setting is more than just okay, it took place a long time ago in Russia. Okay, so it's more than that. Also, characters. We know character analysis is a biggie, um, especially with Star. So thinking about your characters and again, digging a little bit deeper into just what might they look like and what some of their traits, but thinking about how they might move, what they might sound like, expressions they might give, their gestures. So, again, a lot of thinking aloud and animated teaching here with read alouds, a great way to do this. And actually, kind of act out for students. I'm thinking this is how the fox might talk to the other animals. This is maybe the expression his face might have, and here's what he might sound like. Just because a lot of times our kids need an extra little push with that to really get to the heart of a story. Um, and of course, a lesson. Oftentimes, books have myths, fables, legends have some kind of lesson, and you're thinking about what the characters are teaching us through the story. So the author wrote this story, or most likely told this story orally years and years and years ago. What was the lesson? What was the reason that the author told this story? Um, Next is looking at the story problem, and here again, it goes a little bit deeper than just. A lot of students are um, very quick to say. I think one of the lessons gives an example of the lion and the mouse, for instance, and where the lion gets caught and the mouse has to rescue him. And a lot of students are quick to say, "Oh, the problem is the lion gets caught and he needs help, and he can't." And then the mouse comes along, and the way the problem is solved, the mouse comes along and rescues the lion. Well, we know that the problem goes a lot deeper than that because we're going back to the lesson, and the lesson is all about, um, sometimes you will get help from where it's least expected, which the tiny little mouse helps him. So, really thinking about the story's lesson and how that's related to the problem. And kids can totally do that very easily. They just need a little bit of guidance sometimes to look deeper. Next, important events. This will help with summary writing, and a good way to look at how do I know if it's an important event is asking yourself the question, did this event need to happen in order for the resolution to occur? So if I'm thinking about how the problem was solved and how the problem was resolved at the end of the story and how everything worked out, and I'm thinking about a teeny tiny detail, and I think, oh, that detail didn't really need to happen in order for everything to work out in the end. So I'm not going to include that when I talk about the important events. Um, then thinking about some strategies, of course, summarizing, another biggie for us. And these texts are great to use for summarizing fiction. A strategy that comes up that y'all are most likely familiar with, that you've used before, but a strategy that comes up in one of the lessons for this unit is the CPR, the character problem resolution, um, and how to use the plot structure to, again, understand the parts of a summary. So, how I'm going to use what I've learned about the characters and the real problem of the story as related to the lesson, and how that problem was solved. And then, of course, there's a little bit thrown in there about plays. And of course, we don't want to forget that because most likely on Star, there's going to be a play. There was last year. Um, so with those, we want to think about a couple things. Of course, our play vocabulary, like stage directions, lines, speaker, playwright, all those things are going to come into play. But also thinking about how the dialogue in a play is what drives the action. So it's a lot different to read than a fable or a regular fiction story that might have a lot of narration. That there is a lot of dialogue in plays, and the kids need to understand that that's where the meat of the text lies. Okay. Oh, and I've included some resources here, um, right here. To the right of your screen, you'll see some resources, and these are all in these units of study that are on iExplore. So, but what I included here, text features of a play, the CPR graphic organizer, as well as there was one more. Let's see here, summarizing a story. So, some really good resources available for you guys that you can either pull up here or, of course, with the lessons. Okay. And just a little bit of test talk related to drama and traditional literature. These are some things um, that some stems. Again, a lot of these I took right off of the STAR release for fifth grade. But the top section has mostly questions related to plays, such as the play is divided into two scenes because props, that's another word that comes up, which of the props used in this play is needed for the resolution of the conflict. So you're seeing other vocabulary words in there as well. Stage directions. And then at the bottom, some traditional literature questions. From events in the story, what can the reader conclude about character A or B or whoever, and which sentence from the story best shows that. So these are just some questions that you can use as you're working and as you're thinking aloud, as you're working your mini lesson, and as you're working with your small groups and um, conferring. All right, now we're going to move on to writing. And this is an exciting unit because it's all about biographies and writing about people. I think they'll really enjoy this. There are lots of wonderful biographies out there. Again, your librarian is a great resource to point you in the direction of um, all that section of the library that has all those biographies from sports figures to actors to political figures. Um, Anyone that the students might want to know about and research. But so you definitely want to immerse your students in biographies. That's another thing to maybe start thinking now. Start bringing those out and let them really get to know the genre and how they are structured. Um, so what they'll be doing is thinking about who their role models are because we're going to teach them that biographers write about someone they know well. Okay, so they're going to do a little bit of research, but it needs to start out with someone they're interested in. That's why biographers write about someone because that person is interesting to them. The next piece you're going to talk about with your students, biographers research their subjects and determine what is important to include in a biography. So um, what should I include and why should I include it? Why is this an important piece for me to include in this biography about this person? And they can start researching using different sources to include in a biography. Um, use a timeline is a great organizer, graphic organizer to use to collect information on a person, since a lot of biographies are written in sequence about a person's life. The next thing is structure. So biographies, and this is a part of a lesson that you'll teach your fifth graders during this unit. that biographies can be a list of stories, lots of stories from a person's life, or it can be a biographical sketch that focuses on one story. Um, the unit uses the example of uses several examples of biographies that are just focused on one story about that person's life, maybe from their childhood or something. So you're going to expose them to the different structures that can be used. And of course, you, with all of their writing, you want to um, encourage and teach them to how to have a strong lead in a biography, to include voice, because a biography isn't just, this happened and then this person did this and they did this. It's more interesting than that. It's got voice to it, and literary elements to really bring that writing to life. A lot of us love to read biographies. That would be great for you to read. um, bring a biography in that you've read or somebody that you're really interested in, and show how that author brought that person to life for you. Because you could say, I've never met this famous person before. I'm looking at a picture of Frida Kahlo here. I love Frida Kahlo, and I obviously I've never met her, but the writer is bringing her life to life on the paper for me, so I can get to know her through this biography. So those are some things to think about for the biography writing unit, and I think they will have a lot of fun writing these. And of course, this can tie in with literary nonfiction that you've already taught, so you can bring those things back. Again, I've provided some resources over here that I took from iExplore, such as there's a great biography research plan where they're actually planning out all the different pieces for their biography, and also the biographical sketch if they plan to just use one story. And then there's another resource that I thought was very useful, interesting questions for research. So, questions to guide them with their research, to help them put everything together and write their biography. Okay, so that about wraps it up for those two units. If you have any questions or trouble locating resources, please don't hesitate to email or call me, and I'll get back with you as soon as possible. Um, our district progress monitoring, DPM, is coming up very soon. And on December 13th, that will be our next fifth grade coaching session. So thank you guys so much for joining me this morning, and have a fabulous Friday. And I will send you guys a little something special in through Campus Mail. Okay, bye bye.